fire suddenly breaks out in a 120-story skyscraper, instantly destroying the romantic holiday atmosphere. People inside the building face a life-and-death crisis, with crowds of refugees fleeing everywhere. Although the building staff immediately announce over the broadcast for everyone not to use the elevators, the scene is simply too chaotic, and people still panic and rush towards the elevator banks. The moment the elevator doors open, the ugliness of human nature is revealed without reservation. People scramble to push aside those around them to squeeze inside, even in the face of the constant pleading of the elderly, the weak, women and children. The people inside the elevator coldly close the doors. The rapidly descending elevator soon gets stuck in midair. Rising flames quickly burn the bottom of the elevator car. A man suddenly smells something burning, looks down, and sees that his leather shoes are already melting and deforming. As the fire in the elevator shaft continues to climb, the people with nowhere to run are all consumed by the flames. A woman waiting at the elevator entrance senses something is wrong and immediately grabs a girl and runs backward. Other people who do not retreat in time are instantly blown away by the blast wave of the fire. This is the Korean disaster film, The Tower, which tells the story of people struggling to escape when Tower Sky, the tallest skyscraper in Seoul, South Korea, suddenly catches fire on Christmas Eve. The director uses realistic visual effects to portray the extremes of human nature, both good and evil. At first, people do not realize the seriousness of the problem. Although the property manager Daeho discovers in time that the fire suppression pipes on the upper floors of the building have no water, Manager Cha is too busy with the upcoming Christmas banquet and just perfunctorily says that any issues can be discussed tomorrow. But disasters often happen because of a false sense of luck and a moment of carelessness. Soon it is evening, and the upper class is gathering at the top floor of the skyscraper, drinking and celebrating Christmas. The owner of the skyscraper, President Joe, announces that in addition to the special food and scenery tonight, he has prepared a special program for everyone. As the party begins, all the lights in the venue are suddenly projected into midair, mapping out the image of a dancer in a flowing long dress.
Merry Christmas!
Just as brilliant fireworks bloom in the night sky, snowflakes drift down from the sky. Everyone looks up at this beautiful night sky, immersed in a romantic atmosphere. Just then, an accident happens. When the helicopter used for artificial snow climbs to the middle section of Tower Sky, it is suddenly shaken violently by strong airflow. The pilot tries his best to control it, but to no avail, watching helplessly as the helicopter crashes into the glass curtain wall of the building. A huge noise spreads throughout the entire skyscraper. People who were raising their glasses to celebrate just a moment ago are panic-stricken, crying and shouting as they flee in all directions. Glass fragments fall like a rainstorm, and tourists taking photos in the bottom plaza scream and scatter in terror. The reflection of flames magnifies in their terrified pupils. And because the automatic sprinkler system in the building is malfunctioning, the fire grows rapidly. The fire instantly engulfs several floors, and crowds of fleeing people are everywhere. Although the staff inside the building react quickly and shout through the broadcast for everyone not to use the elevators immediately, but because the scene is simply too chaotic, people do not listen to the staff's instructions. They still panic and swarm towards the direction of the elevators. The moment the elevator opens, people scramble to push aside those around them to squeeze in. Facing the crowded elevator, Yoon-hee, holding a little girl, constantly begs to let the child in, but the people in the elevator coldly close the door. Soon the elevator gets stuck in mid-air during its descent. Accompanied by searing flames and thick black smoke, everyone inside the elevator is ultimately consumed by the fire. Even the people waiting anxiously at the elevator entrance are instantly swept away by the fire wave, screaming as they fall to the ground. Explosions also occur on several other floors. Some people are injured, and some are swept out of the building by the airwaves. The scene is too horrible to endure. At the same time, a fire brigade led by Captain Young-ki arrives at the scene. After a rough assessment of the fire, Young-ki believes they must enter the building immediately, find the ignition point, and extinguish it to control the fire. Soon, the entire fire brigade is mobilized. They split into two groups. One group pushes up from the bottom of the building, and the other group breaks through windows from the high levels via fire ladders. Meanwhile, the news of the fire at the Skyscraper also brings major Korean media to the scene. High-level government officials promise the media they will do their best to carry out rescue operations, but privately, they demand the fire brigade prioritize rescuing the upper class inside the building and provide a priority rescue list. The survivors inside the building are ecstatic when they see the rescue helicopter, finally seeing hope for survival. But they soon discover that the helicopter does not stop to rescue them. Inside the building at this time, Young-ki finally leads his team to the vicinity of the ignition point on the 63rd floor, coincidentally meeting Dae-ho, who came to find his daughter. Young-ki quickly drags Dae-ho out of the danger zone and asks him to leave the building on his own, but Dae-ho insists on going upstairs to find his daughter. Young-ki understands Dae-ho's feelings very well and does not try to persuade him too much, so he leaves him a walkie-talkie and an oxygen tank, promising to come pick them up after Dae-ho finds his daughter. Subsequently, Dae-ho runs towards the restaurant. Along the way, rubble falls and flames dart around, but he never sees his daughter. Instead, he accidentally discovers the cleaner, Aja, trapped under a collapsed wall. He hurriedly steps forward to move the broken wall and saves her, but because her leg is crushed, Aja cannot escape the building alone at all. Hearing that Dae-ho wants to find his daughter, Aja knows she is doomed to die, so she gives the tuition money she prepared for her son to Dae-ho, hoping he can pass it to her son for her. However, the kind-hearted Dae-ho does not abandon her. Instead, he takes her to escape with him. At this time, the firefighters arriving at the ignition point quickly connect the water pipes. They must extinguish the fire source immediately. But the passage to the machine room is completely covered by the fire. In the face of a sea of fire, their water guns appear so tiny and powerless. People who have not been there can never imagine how terrifying the fire scene is and how dangerous the firefighters' work is. After multiple forced attacks, they still cannot get close. Explosions are still happening constantly. Firefighters are knocked down by shockwaves, climb up again, and are knocked down again. Not a single young firefighter flinches. As long as there is a glimmer of hope, they all choose to move forward courageously. But if they persist like this, not only will they fail to put out the fire, but they themselves will also be buried in the sea of fire. Young-ki immediately decides to vent the fire outward. As the glass is smashed, the fire quickly rushes outside, but this also places him in danger. Finally, with everyone's unremitting efforts, the fire at the ignition point on the 63rd floor is controlled. However, just as they are preparing for the next step to rescue the trapped people, President Joe of the Skyscraper's operating company issues a ruthless order in an attempt to prevent the building from being completely destroyed. He decisively activates the building's firewall to block the spread of the fire. This means that the escape routes for many innocent people in the building will be blocked. At this moment, Dae-ho, who is looking for his daughter in the building, knows nothing about this. He stumbles forward with Aja. Exhausted, they meet the assistant cook, In-gun, who rushes up to help upon seeing the situation. But at this time, the building's firewall has already started. With the passage to the restaurant about to be sealed, they hurriedly support Aja and run forward. Finally, at the very last moment before the firewall hits the ground, they roll and crawl into the restaurant, escaping by a hair's breadth. Seeing her father rush in, Hana runs over happily and they hug and weep. After calming down, Daeho uses the walkie-talkie to contact Young-ki, informing him that there are over a dozen survivors here, as well as a pregnant woman waiting to give birth, hoping he can come to the restaurant for rescue. Hearing this, Young-ki immediately leads people to go there. Unexpectedly, halfway there, he receives orders from his superiors commanding them to immediately proceed to another floor for rescue, stating there are more important people in a dangerous state there. Young-kai has no choice but to obey the order. He lets a team member go to blast the restaurant firewall first, while he leads the team to the 72nd floor mentioned by the superiors. But when they rush there desperately, they find only a man and a wealthy woman in the luxury suite. There is no fire here, and no one is injured. Young-ki is even scolded by the man for delaying time. Only then does Young-ki recognize the man as a congressman and understands the reason why his superiors asked him to prioritize the rescue. At this moment, the woman suddenly cries out that her child is still inside, and the firefighters immediately rush in. Then, a pet dog runs out. It turns out this is her child. This makes Young-kai furious.
일가족 3명 구조했다. 우리 애기 강아지까지. 무전 끊어 이 개새끼야!
Subsequently, Young-kai rushes to the restaurant. But before he can arrive, the restaurant collapses. With no way out, Yoon-hee suddenly spots a high-altitude gondola hanging in midair outside the building. Now, they are in a dilemma. Staying here means waiting for death, so he leads everyone to take a risk and jump into the high-altitude gondola. Just then, an explosion occurs in the restaurant, and an old man who didn't make it to the gondola in time is instantly swallowed by the fire. The high-altitude gondola is also swept away by the airwave, falling a few floors down, and then gets stuck in midair, crumbling. Seeing this, Daeho hurriedly directs everyone to use their strength to swing the gondola toward the building. With everyone's concerted efforts, the gondola smashes through the building's glass, and everyone takes the opportunity to jump into the building one after another. However, before everyone can safely evacuate, the high-altitude gondola crashes violently to the ground. The survivors continue to look for a way out inside the building. Daeho suddenly discovers that this floor connects to Tower B of the skyscraper via a glass skybridge. There is no fire there. As long as they get there, everyone will be safe. Just as the group prepares to step onto the glass bridge, Young-ki, who arrives in time, stops them. Young-ki states that due to the fire, the glass bridge is currently very fragile. If everyone crosses together, it might shatter instantly. He and a team member scout the path for them first and mark safe footholds with glow sticks. Afterward, Young-ki returns to Tower A and has the group cross the bridge one by one, following the route of the glow sticks. But when Hana, the first to set off, is about to reach the other side, the building suddenly shakes violently and spiderweb-like cracks appear on the glass surface. Hana cries in fear, and Namok is also too scared to move. At this moment, Cha suddenly rushes out from behind, pushes Namok away, and runs forward. His action completely breaks the balance of the corridor, and the glass instantly shatters under his feet. Fortunately, the firefighters rush up at the fastest speed and carry Hana to Tower B. Amidst Hana's crying, the entire corridor collapses with a loud crash into fragments falling into the sea of fire, leaving the remaining people trapped in Tower A. Because the fire is too massive, Tower A of Tower Sky could tilt and collapse at any time, and the collapse would impact the other building. To minimize the damage, the only option is to immediately forcibly demolish Tower A. So the Superior Commander immediately orders the firefighters in the building to evacuate immediately to prepare for the demolition. But the Fire Chief raises an objection. Besides firefighters, there are many people waiting for rescue in the building. Once the building is demolished, none of them will survive. There is one more method, which is to drain all 800 tons of water from the roof storage tank to reduce the building's load. This can slow down the speed of the building's tilt and buy some more time for the rescue, but the situation is urgent. After hearing this, Young Ki immediately leads Daeho into the core area of the building. Using Daeho's fingerprint to open the water tank, he presses the water release button, and over 800 tons of water pour down instantly. Whether in the stairwell or the rooms on various floors, the fire is instantly extinguished, allowing some people trapped in the sea of fire to be luckily saved. At the same time, high-level government officials send helicopters to pick up several batches of trapped people, but because the smoke expands, the helicopters can no longer take off again. At this time, many people are still trapped in the building, including Daeho and Yoonhee. The remaining trapped people have to carry out self-rescue. Daeho suggests that everyone can escape by taking the elevator down in a freefall. The elevator triggers a break every 10 floors. Although dangerous, it is their only way out. Helpless, the trapped people decide to take the risk. The elevator begins to fall rapidly, and the sense of weightlessness makes everyone scream incessantly. Every impact from the brakes feels like it's shattering bones, and the temperature inside the elevator is also constantly rising. When the elevator falls to the burning 40th floor, it suddenly stops. Thick smoke pours in through the cracks, and the sound of coughing rises one after another. In order not to be roasted alive by the fire, everyone supports each other and jumps up and down vigorously. With the help of gravity, the elevator finally starts again, continues to fall, and successfully gets stuck again between the 5th and 6th floors. Young Ki and Daeho take the lead to climb out of the elevator, and then work together to pull the people out. The first to come out are 3 children, followed by the elderly and the pregnant woman. But just as they continue to pull the next person, the elevator suddenly falls again, crashing uncontrollably toward the basement with a piercing friction sound. As time passes, the skyscraper faces the risk of collapse once again. High-level government officials decide to immediately withdraw all firefighters and demolish the building to avoid greater losses. Just after the elevator fell into the basement, Yoonhee and others wake up in the ruins and immediately call headquarters for support. All exits going up have collapsed. They are trapped in ruins. The rescue team analyzes that the only way to escape now is to enter the Han River through the drainage pipes at the bottom of the building before the demolition. But there is still a long distance to reach the Han River, and there is not enough time before the demolition. The only way is to detonate the water reservoir at the bottom of the building. The sudden discharge of a large amount of water will quickly flush them into the Han River. They immediately enter the building carrying explosives. Now, there are only 20 minutes left. Soon they descend to the bottom level with the explosives. At this time, there are 16 minutes left until the demolition. They hear a cry for help at an elevator entrance. After forcing the elevator door open, they finally see the dying Yoonhee and others and immediately take them into the drainage pipe. Then, Young Ki leads the firefighters to the reservoir to install the explosives and then runs back to the drainage pipe. But at this moment, Young Ki locks himself inside because the detonation remote control was accidentally lost during the action just now. He knows full well that if the explosives can only be detonated manually, the person responsible for setting them off will almost certainly not survive, so he chooses to sacrifice himself. With reluctance to leave his wife, Young Ki presses the detonation button. Accompanied by the sound of the explosion, the water from the reservoir gushes out, and the trapped people are indeed flushed into the Han River along with the current. The water rescue team arrives quickly and saves them onto the shore. Subsequently, Tower Sky is also demolished, turning into a pile of ruins. The rescued people reunite with their families, but those who sacrifice themselves can never return.